Good morning. So it's super early, I guess, because I'm on daylight savings morning time still or something. And I woke right up and now I'm just up. And I thought I would do a video of something that I was thinking about yesterday. Um, yeah, so I'm really pretty excited about this latest analogy that I came up with for Jesus being God because lately I've come across a lot of people who are just really confused of how Jesus could be God. And first of all, I feel bad for these people because they're overthinking something fierce. Either that or, and I was talking to my mom about this, um, maybe this information that we think is just a practical uh, piece of information is really like somehow spiritual. Just like how the Holy Spirit, Jesus said that, the world does not know him and can't know him and can't. And you think, well, how can the world not know him? Or, or not even that. It's just like if Jesus is saying that he really, really can't be known by anybody but the people of God. Because, Jesus himself was, the fact that he was accessible to everybody was kind of a big deal. It didn't seem like that at the time, but he was like, yeah, no, the Holy Spirit, they can't know him. So, um, maybe the fact that Jesus is God is kind of similar to that type of principle, and even the fact that I think it says in I want to say First Corinthians. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. But it says, that no one can say Jesus is Lord without the Spirit. So, you know, I think there's something to this that we think is just, oh, let me explain my religion to you. And it's not. It's not the same thing as these other religions. It is reality. But as I have also said before, I am sort of committed to um, breaking these things down practically as much as I feel like they can be broken down this way. So I came up with a really great analogy, which I have no idea why it took me so long to come up with this, but I've talked about before about, becoming an author and just understanding God so much better once that happened. Um, it really just took a lot of my questions away because just practically speaking, becoming an author and having to create characters and create a world um, in order to become that, be considered an author. Um, and just realizing like, if you don't create the world, it doesn't exist. You have to create it. So you're responsible for everything that happens in that world. And it's just a reality. Even if everything happens in that world is good, whatever, good or bad. But even if it was bad, you creating it isn't bad. It can't be. It's not. It can't be judged by the same criteria. You have to. If someone dies, if there's a death in a family or whatever, you have to kill the person has to die. That's just what it is. It's not it's a different. There's no morality in the creating. Um, or there's no judging in the creating, at least for the characters. Like, the characters can't judge me, like they can't. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, they're here and that's what it is. Like, they might not like it, but if I were able to create sentient whatevers, which thankfully I'm not, I'm just saying, like, it is what it is. You exist and that's what it is. Like, and you can be mad about that, but like, that's where your control ends there. Like, that's not where your thing is. So, very interesting. Um, I'm required to create the conflict in order for the story to exist. Without the conflict, it's completely and totally meaningless. And I had that epiphany personally. Um, so, in that same vein, I was thinking about, like, okay, well, the way that we say, oh, God is everything and God is in all of us and we are all God. And, well, we don't say that, but certain people say that. And I'm thinking, well, do I create my characters? Yes. Am I all of my create characters? No. Like, I would maintain essentially that even though I'm creating people, they have they have something of me because they're created by me, but they're not me. Like, I've made, like, you know, big 6 foot tall country white guys. Like, that's not me. Like, but they're, they have to have something of me in them. So it's distinct enough that if somebody said that my characters are me, I would have to say no. But if I were to write myself, basically, if I were to write a character and name her Christine and put her in a world and be like, hey guys, my name is Christine, and I actually wrote this book, and they have the characters be like, no, you didn't. What do you mean you wrote what book? We're Living Life. What book are you talking about? And I'm like, no, this is a book, and I'm writing it. If I were to do that, if I were to insert myself into the narrative, then yeah, that's me. I'm writing me and putting myself into the book. And I can either just have myself walk around the town or whatever, or I can be like, did you guys know this is actually a book? Like, either way, I've written myself into. Is that me? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, that's Jesus. Like, ta-da! That's Jesus. How can a man be God? Okay, he literally inserted himself into the world. And the other thing was like, um, my mom likes to make the analogy, like, if you write something down, like, your words are you. Like, you can't separate yourself from your words. Um, you're responsible for something that, if somebody goes, did you write this or whatever? It's like that what you say is reliably related to you. It is basically you. So how much more if you take your own words and you put them into a character, into a book you're writing? Like, that is you. That's you. That's you. And, I'm sure someone could still figure out a way to be confused about that, because it's like, well, yeah, but how can you, break yourself off into a separate thing and make yourself, and it's like, dude, I just explained how I could do it. So let's stop having problems where there are none. And the thing is, like, you know, well, that idea just flew out, but it'll probably come back because it's literally the only thing that I'm talking about. But, like, I really wonder about people who have these type of problems, because it's like, should we go back to the first hurdle? It's like, do you believe that God, if God exists, he ought to be able to do literally anything? Because I don't understand how you could even, like, trip over this idea of, like, how could God have a child? How could God have a son? How could, like, what? How do we have children? because I guarantee you nobody knows how the baby gets here. We can see how the baby is formed. How does the baby become a soul? Where does the soul at? No one can tell you how to start that process. What point does the soul get there? So no one can have a baby without God. God is 100% involved. You can say car accident all day long. That's just, yeah, because you don't actually have control over this process. You can do things to facilitate this process. Just like you accidentally had a baby, there's people who are intentionally trying to have one and can't until the day that they intended for years, and it didn't happen until a certain day. So we do not actually, it's an illusion that we have any control over it at all anyways. But there's plenty of instances where, I mean, when the scientists are looking at the child, you can see, they'll put a camera in there, you can see the whole thing, super, super deep, small, miraculous miracle of technology camera in there. Okay, when does the soul get there? How do you do that? How do you mimic the soul in the lab? Like, you can't. So or how do you cause the process to start? So anyways, so yeah, I think that that's like the best analogy ever. And if you're still confused after that, then you're not even to the point where you think God can do anything. Like, just in principle, and you got to believe that in order to believe in God. Like, it's just like, just that to me is like, that's a character thing of the person or something. It's like, you have to be willing to believe the whole, like, a lot. It's actually a lot. Like, you just like throwing around the belief in God, but it's like, there's actually, it takes a certain mind. It takes a certain letting go of things, and things that you take for granted, I guess, probably. Because it's just like, okay, God, do you believe that God can do anything? Yes. Okay. It's like the flow chart. It's like, okay, do you believe that God could have made us with 4 arms but didn't? Do you believe that, like, and that could be our normal? Do you believe that he could have made us with web feet but he didn't? Because when you believe that God could do anything, then everything he did do becomes in itself information and becomes very profound. So, and that's just what that means. That is what that means. That's not an interpretation. Like, every choice that is made, everything is a choice. The sea is a choice. The sky is a choice. The animals are a choice. And it's okay to be like, well, why did you make this? Why did you make that? Why'd you make a zebra? Why did you make a turtle? Why'd you, those are good questions, good, solid curiosity, foundational questions that'll get you, but if it's all just like, well, how come this happened? How come that happened? You're just going to be in the weeds. You're just going to be, that's not even really a question. That's just you whining. Do you really want to know the answer to that? I bet you there's going to be another question after that. So, anyway, I got off into just judging people, but basically, mainly what I want to tell y'all is basically, like, Jesus is God inserting himself into our narrative. And then giving him literally his own words to say. So that's what Jesus is. And so anyways, the other thing I was going to say was like, before I get on to that, there was a couple like little tidbit things that I was thinking of along those same lines of I'm just feeling like, I don't know, I feel like I just want to leave a record for people who don't, who don't figure out how to get close to God right away, and don't figure out all you got to do is just like literally ask him and talk to him and do whatever that takes to do that. I don't know, maybe I can even share that process for me, because I was listening to someone the other day and they were talking about like this how, if you even if you're a Christian and you all you do is like pray to God, and you just like, everybody's heard about this dilemma in church. You pray to God, but you never actually like sit and talk to him or whatever. And I think the unspoken question of that is, how in the ham sandwich do you do that? Which I understand why you would say that, because he is invisible and also he can't necessarily hear him. But the answer, of course, is faith. Da, 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 it's faith. And, you know, uh, faith, let me not do that, go meta on that first yet. Um, so the guy that was talking, he was talking about how, um, he kind of gave us a rare glimpse into what he does, because he's like, it takes some patience. It's like you got to listen for it, and because you can't just drum up some whatever. And he's like, you got to listen and this and that. And I was like thinking about that. I was like, yeah, there's so much about God that is like, um, it's like having someone who, is like trapped in their body or something, and you have to give them a keyboard to speak. It's like, um, he's pure spirit, and something about him, it's like he has the exact same thing in common with like every difficult case on earth where you have to communicate with somebody. These things where people are they're having to like type out their things with their mouth because their whole body is paralyzed or something, or it's this kind of but it's not, I'm not saying it has to be like that. I'm just saying when you're reaching out across reality to the spirit realm, which is the real reality, and you're like a baby, you know what I mean, like it just, and I think there's something in it that God wants us to make that effort. And if we don't make that effort, I was saying something like that to my mom about like, the people in our society who are just kind of the hardest to deal with, or the least desirable, or the people who just have nothing uh, that benefits us. Um, is that the majority of people? It might be. Like it might be like it might work out to be that. And there's something about it that's like that's where God is. There's something about it where that it's like that is where God is at. Um and so we can't claim to not see him or not be able to sense him when we can barely, it's like if you can barely hold a conversation with somebody who has, in your eyes, has nothing to, if you're talking to them, it's just a time suck for you. It's not giving you anything. It's only, you're not gonna, it's not networking. It's not anything valuable. It's not anybody that you have anything in common with. Like, um, it's like you can't say that you don't sense God, and you can't even do that. It's like that scripture that's like, how can you say you love God when you don't even love your brother? It's like, how can you say you love God who you haven't seen when you hate your brother who you have seen? It's kind of like that. Um, the Bible is the same way. Like, not for me, but I'm finding out for a lot of people, it's like, um, they just not even reading the thing. They're not reading the thing, and it's not calling to them either. It's not appealing to them. Um, and yeah, you could be like, well, you're not in the right book. You're not, and you can do all that all day. But honestly, like, and I've been there. It's definitely different from, when I was a teenager. Like there were some things that I liked um, in it, stories that I liked and that I remembered. But before I was reading the Bible, I was just, getting it from church, getting it from pastors, getting it from sermons, which I think is where Christians get most of their Bible. There's it's kind of a thrill and sort of being surprised by what the pastor is saying. So they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that was in there. I'm about to hear a sermon about that. Yeah, teach me." But um, now it's been a couple of decades, and I can't even imagine. Like, and then it's so rich and so like bottomless, and so like the way that you could just pick it up and be like, "Hold on, what?" Like, it just is like you're like reading about Jonah and the whale. You're like, "What? Wait, what?" Like it's like stuff you didn't even see. You're like, "How? I'm 40 years old. Where's that been?" Anyway, blah blah blah. So, yeah, there's something in that about it's like that's where God is, and He's waiting for anybody. Like I made sort of this another analogy in my head. Oh, this is about faith, right? Because I'm thinking about a lot about the nature of faith, and um, I've been thinking about like what is faith? Like if I were to explain it in like layman's terms, not really layman's terms, but like because when somebody asks you what faith is, they give you the Bible definition that Paul gives us, which is faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And that should, that's going to satisfy you in the beginning because you'll be like, oh, that's heavy. And then you'll be like, okay, but what is that though? Like eventually you're going to want to have to get down to the bottom. And I was thinking about it and I was like, what we're talking about when we're talking about faith is like, faith is like pure human intention. It's like, and this can be, it doesn't have to be big. It just has to be there. like, um, so like, if I were to like, you could say that it takes faith to get out of the bed. And you would say, well, no, it doesn't. Yes, it does. Because you believe that you expect that your limbs are going to move and going to do everything. We always use the analogy of sitting down in a chair. It's like you expect that the chair is going to hold you, that it's even going to be there. So you move your body in a pretty vulnerable spot. Like if there was nothing there, you would fall all the way down and not get up. So you expect to be able to sit in the chair the way that you want to. That is your intention. And it's not like you make it happen because you did that. That's not faith. Doesn't It's not witchcraft. It's just the vehicle the vehicle that makes witchcraft happen. Because the other thing is that faith is not exclusively something that belongs to Christianity or God or good stuff. It's literally how things are created. So it's not that you just need, all you need is a little bit of intention and then you can, whatever, it's the secret. I'm just saying this is a part of it. This is part of the process. Just like how you have something in your mind. It's like, I want to start a business. I want to start, and then you see, which is like, can we talk about that for a second? We're just letting that slide. How can I see things in here? How can I make images? What's that for? What evolutionary thing is that for? Oh, that's so that you can you can make a house so you can keep your family warm. It's like, what is that? What's survival? So I can see the thing that I want to make, And then that should get me excited enough. It's like, now it's like, I gotta try to do this. It's like, it gives you the fuel to like set your intention to start. Then you start. Maybe you start small. Maybe you, like, obviously you're gonna have to start researching. You're gonna, like, okay, this is what it's gonna be. This is what it's gonna be like this. Like, I think about like this in movies. I used to think about this all the time. It's like they would set out to make this movie. It's like, we're gonna make this movie. And it's like, we are going to make this movie. And then they make the movie. Like, and sometimes it turns out better than what they intended. But it's like all of these people setting their intention. We are going to make this movie. We're going to make this movie. It's going to be this. It will, this kind of like thing. And it's like, okay, well, let's make a scale. Let's like a tiny scale model of the big thing we're going to make. And it eventually happens. All of that, there's faith in all of that. And that we don't think about it technically like that, like mostly because now it's just this blanket term of like, the devil just makes you use it because he doesn't want to say Jesus. It makes him barf. So he just says, your faith, your faith, your faith. But he uses faith too. But he has to, he doesn't have to, but I don't know if he prefers or it's just better to be like sneaky about it. So the reason why we think it's only like God's thing is because God is up front and it's like, he doesn't want to trick you into doing anything. He's like, you got to use your faith. If you have faith as a mustard seed, and all of this faith talk and sort of this tutorial about faith and how to use it. And it's up to you whether to do it or not. And he's like, oh, you didn't have enough faith. You have a little faith. Get some more faith, whatever. It's like Peter walked on the water. It's like we talk about Jesus walking on the water. Okay, Peter did it too. For 2 seconds, but he did it. Okay? So, but here's what the devil does. He gets you to use your faith in a tricky way. So, like, do you believe in crystal balls and tarot cards? Like, you literally don't even have to. He's just gonna like trick you to go through the process. So he's gonna get you to say something over and over. Because when you're saying things over and over, eventually your brain is gonna get tired. And then, you're not really thinking about what you're doing, but you're still doing it. Okay, now something, you've set your intention. It's like, or, a Ouija board or something. And you're like, this isn't real. This isn't real. Okay, but you put your hands on the thing. Why? Because you want to find out. You want to see. You're bringing yourself through the process. You're doing intentional things. He doesn't want you to think that it's important, like it's going to do anything. So, and then you're like, oh my gosh. So he's got you doing intentional things. I just watched a super disturbing video of these kids doing this, like, basically like when we were like little and we were doing like, it was like Bloody Mary. It was like, you see Bloody Mary in the mirror 3 times and, you turn the lights out or whatever. And I was like, yeah, y'all can keep that, but good luck. And, you'll see her or whatever. It's like, all of that is the same thing. All of that's the same thing. So, he's using the fear and the I dare you and all this, but you're getting your faith stirred all the way up. And okay, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work. Okay, well, he just trapped 10% of all people just by y'all being dumb. And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to spend no money. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. And so you get in certain situations and you think, oh, well, I'm just going to laugh this off, or I'm just going to, it's like, but if there's any faith there, if you're using any type of faith at all to set yourself to start doing something because you intend for something to happen, he at any time can come in there and complete the circuit. It's just like drugs. It's like when you take drugs, you're not like, I don't know. This is more like TV, like movie scenes or whatever. It's like they're given the drug and then they sit back in the chair and they wait. They're not like, okay, I see the thing, but I don't think anything's happening. Like, nothing's happening. Is anything happening? It's like, bro, just give it a second. Like they never have to say that to them. But don't be in church trying to get healing. Don't be in church trying to feel the Holy Ghost. It's like I don't. It's like you're seeing other people. It's like, is that real? No one's taking the cocaine, going like looking around the room, like, I don't know, is he faking that? Like, that's not happening. Like, you're like, oh well, drugs isn't faith. That's a real substance. Okay, yeah, it is. You are in a ritual. You're sitting back. You're closing your eyes, and you're gonna let the drug take you wherever it takes you. That's a ritual. Like, these things are not, oh no, that's just Saturday night. It's like, bro, this is older than your Saturday night. Like, you're dealing with stuff that's ancient. So anyways, so I'm trying to just break these things down basically for people who might get lost in the weeds with a lot of just knowing the terms. And by the way, don't get fooled by people who just know the terms because they sat in church for years. They probably, if they're just like giving you, if everything is literally just a one verse answer, or a slick, catchy way of remembering something, then people is churched. If that's all they got, like, you got to pepper them in. Like, you remember things that your pastor said that helps you remember stuff, things that this teacher said that helps you remember stuff. But if that's all that's in there, then you're not fooling me. You're fooling some people. You're not fooling me. You ain't reading no Bible. You're not reading it. So, and what another thing I was thinking about too is like, memorizing it seems like it's super hard sometimes. And like, I'll be watching it. It's like, I understand what's happening. I'll be watching people that I know are in the word, but it's like, I know you're in the word and you can't remember even how it goes. It's like this thing, and you go to say it, you're like, just like it says in such and such where, and then you go to say it. It's like, it's something like, you're like, it's something like, don't do thing. It's like, why can't you just say what it is? It's like in your brain, like, I've really just had to stop and be like, okay, but what is this though for real? Because I've heard this a million times. Like, now I'm listening to the Bible at night, and it's like, I've heard this a million times. Just like a little side note that's funny. If it's in a song, it's memorized. Isn't that funny? Music will do it. If it's in a song, it's memorized. I got it. But if it's not in a song, I'm stumbling over that verse. I cannot give it to you verbatim. I can't. And it's not just because, if we just memorize more things. It's something about, it's like a certain part of the brain. I don't think that the memorization, it's good, and it's good for some things, but I don't think that it does what people think it does. It might make people feel like you're super cool or something, or super spiritual, that you have something memorized. But like, it's weird because it's just like, you're so confident that you can say it until you actually go to say it, and then you're just like tripping over your words. It's like, it's in there. It's in there. And I don't know, it was reminding me of the faith thing, because it's like, when we read it and when we have the word, and honestly, that's just true of anything. When you try to like recall a conversation verbatim or whatever, it's just kind of hard. It's not that you don't have it there. It's just hard to say. It's just hard to tell someone else. Like, it's like, it's in there. You're like, oh, I wish I could tell you like how it went. But yeah. So, and then obviously memorization comes easier to other people and all that stuff. But I kind of got off a little bit. I was going to go on to my next subject, but I don't know. It's not really necessary for me to say, but I don't know, maybe it is. So I was telling you about like the guy that said, like, you have to sit and wait. And a lot of people like to have a notebook, and um, they'll be with an empty notebook, and then they'll write down what they hear God saying, which is good too. That's probably like the best thing to start out doing. And I just thinking about my method today, which I was like, that's my method is really chaotic because I literally invented it. And again, it's like, is there a set way to talk to God? Obviously, the guy that was telling you, like, it takes a while to hear from him, or, you got to sit and listen. It's like, obviously, like, that's the way he does it. Why would he think it's any different for anyone else? Is it different for anyone else? And I think it is. And I think that it's not necessary. If your faith goes, here's what that guy said, and then you go, okay, this is what I got to do. Boom, that's what you got to do. If a man, whatever I was about to do, and I'm like, he who hath the man believeth. How does it go? What is it? Like, basically, whatever a man thinks in his mind, that's what he is. That's what the scripture basically says. There's something in it that's like, it's okay to say it in your own words, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say the Bible. It's like it was their own words. They were just talking. They were trying to make a point. And it's like, sir, you just said something that's straight out of the Bible. And it's just because the Bible is just true information. So so anybody can come to the conclusion. They could. Most people don't, but they could. And when they do, it's like, bro, that's amazing. That's really like a really clear indication that person should be a believer, is a believer, is being called by God. Because it's like, dude, you're saying this exact same thing that God said. That's insane. So it's really cool to find people like that, by the way. And, you don't just be those people's friends, because that's super cool. But anyways, so yeah, whatever you think in your mind. And the other thing I was going to say is like how faith works, like in this context. Like, okay, so we've established that faith is just a part of the process. Everyone in the spirit realm uses it. God uses it. The devil uses it. Or not uses it, but it's like, if you're trying to get them around you, whoever you're trying to get around you, that's going to require this faith. But you're also using it in your everyday life. But you don't think of it as that. So it's like this. So let's say that you're like, okay, well, God, I don't know that God exists. He's not out there. I don't see him, blah, blah, blah. And then you decide, you're like, okay. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to, okay, I won't even use a real life example. I'll use like an analogy. Okay, so let's say that God says that we all know that God is 1,000,000 miles away and you have to walk to get to him. It's like, oh, God's 1,000,000 miles away. We have to walk to get to him. It's like, oh my gosh, who's going to do that? And then but finally somebody's like, fine, I'll just quit my job. I'll just, he's thinking about it. He's like, I'll just quit my job. I'll just, because I can't not at least try. I got to at least make the attempt. Like, that person wants to see God. So he's like, okay, I'm going to start tomorrow. And he gets up tomorrow. He gets up the next day and he's like, he's got his walking shoes and he's like, here I go. And so he goes 1, 2, and then boom, God is there. And he's like, oh my gosh. And God's like, you're here. And he's like, I only walk 2 steps. He's like, well, yeah, you can't walk the whole way. I did the rest of it. And he's like, oh my gosh. So then that guy comes back and he's like, dude, I met God. I thought I was going to have to do the whole 1,000,000 steps. I didn't. I literally did 2 steps. And he showed up and did the rest. Like, that's all you have to do. And that's what he tells people. That's all you have to do. Right? So now you have in your brain, okay, it's just easy. It's actually easy. All I got to do is walk 2 steps. No, now you have to walk 100 steps. Because that's not faith. That's not faith. The first guy was going to quit his job. He got him some new running shoes because he was ready to walk that whole 1,000,000 steps. He was going to leave society because he was like, I can't not meet God. I have to take this chance. That was his intention. That's what he was thinking. And with that, that's what he did. And that's what God is looking for. So you start going, you're like, here we go. Boom. 1, 2. It's an afternoon. You didn't even change none of your plans. You're like, I'm going to just walk to God real fast. 1, 2. Nothing happens. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Why isn't this working? That guy's a liar. This, that, the other thing. No. You aren't using faith. You were using information that you heard to get God. Okay. But then sometimes here's what I think is happening, because God is a person, and somebody that goes, oh my gosh, me too. The same thing happened to me too. I took 2 steps and he was there, because that person's heart, they were so excited to go see God. He was like, fine. He was like, okay, you can come too. 2 steps. Here we go. Because he was so drawn in by that person's love and anticipation and joy that he was like, okay, 2 steps for you too. But when you're like, I'm about to go ask God for this and that, but then sometimes that you get surprised with that too, because he just loves the trueness of your request. So he might show up to that guy and be like, hey, listen, I'll give you what you want, but you don't get to come here. It's like, I'm going to honor your thing because you just knew for sure it was going to happen. So here's your rap career or whatever. He wouldn't do that. But I'm just saying, whatever you're about to go ask God for, he's like, here's that. But because he wants to know if you want to hang out with him. Because that's what this whole thing is about. Do you want to hang out with him? Like, he's made a lot of cool stuff. Like, this is like, and I think about this all the time. Like, is this like, I don't know what mixture he made with me, but like, this is like not even something that I have an issue with. It's like, I want to know, just like I was saying earlier about like how God created everything, and like, or God can do anything, but he has chosen to do certain things. And it's like, that's naturally fascinating to me. Like, I got to know the person who made the thing. Like, why would I fall in love with the thing? What's that got to do with it? Like, who made the thing? It's like, I got to meet that guy. I don't have trouble like with accidentally worshiping the stuff that he made. So he's like, he wants people, it's so simple. It's so simple. And that's why I feel like I have to break these things down, because it's like, once these things are broken down, you realize just like how this is actually quite simple. It's not religious. It's not any type of, this is not about, it might inadvertently look like it's about tiers and classes and stuff, but it's like, and maybe, it's not all meritocracy. A lot of it is faith. It's a mixture of things. But, so I can see how you can get tricked. And then there's just these unscrupulous people. And then there's people who just are ignorant and have no idea what's going on and are just spouting things and just whatever. But it really just comes down to like, God wants people who care about knowing him, like about him and like why he made this place. Like, he's a lot more, accommodating to the people who just like to whine and complain about why things are the way they are, more than I would be. But, it kind of would be like, if somebody was like, asking me like why certain things in my book happened, it's like, I'm going to care a lot more about that conversation, because it's like, I inadvertently get to talk about why I did what I did and like my process and stuff, which is all interesting to me. Obviously, I spend hours creating things. So, but I think a lot, and he can also, I don't know. I mean, God obviously can sense like when you're just whining, or when there's really actually a question there, or a hurt there, or something else. But to me, it's like, if you can talk to the creator, like, how can you, and then it's like, how are you, like, it's like being in heaven and being like, my brother is dead and things are so hard. It's like, you're in heaven now, bro. how are you still offended? Like, just get some, sniff some of that holy presence, and then either go back down with permanent joy or stay here. Like, what do you have to complain about now? It's like people just really just like to complain. I don't know if you've noticed that. People just like to complain and be offended and be in their feelings and be unforgiving. Like, maybe on some level you need to forgive God. And it's not like so much that God did anything bad, but you're offended. And it's like we're so jacked up. Sin can make it to the point where you have to forgive God for being perfect. But you let all these other people slide all day, every day. It's like, well, no one's perfect, but God. It's like, I don't know. But anyway, I'm already at 45 minutes, so I think I'm going to slide my last little thing in. But I'm glad that I was able to pick up that little analogy, because I forgot about it for a second. But like, I was thinking about like my method of talking to God, which is kind of really like, I don't know if it needs to be tweaked. I feel like sometimes it needs to be tweaked because it's just really weird. But there's some good stuff about it though too, because somewhere like I decided what I was going to do was listen for God's voice, but I was going to, because I feel like if I listened too long, I would start like analyzing it. I would like analyze it to death. Like, I don't know if I could listen for a distinct, pass this sentence by and pass that sentence by, listen for the distinct voice of God. I don't know, something about my personality, but I don't know, maybe I should probably be doing that. So what I decided to do is like, do like this thing where it's like, it's very much about disciplining myself to listen for the first instinctive thing and accept it, not judge it, not like hold on to and be like, oh, God's writing new scripture through me. It's like, not like, it's like, but it's like, be very loose with it and just put no bounds on it. And, maybe it's me sometimes, maybe it's the devil sometimes, maybe it's God sometimes, like, not really, but like, I'm weird enough. Like, I can withstand a lot of weirdness. Like, it's just getting weird. I can withstand a lot of weirdness. So, if I hear something weird and I'm like, I'll just, the worst I'm going to say about it is like, okay, well, that's probably not God. But I always leave it open that it could be. Like, always, always, always. So because I have like very like higher threshold of like what I am willing to deal with, like, I'm not going to like just act on everything that I hear in my brain, is what I mean. And I think most people, like, if you have an inner voice and you listen to your inner voice and you're a Christian, at some point you're going to hear a voice that you feel like, that, why does that feel like that feels like a second perspective. Like, and you're going to be like, I think that was God. So, but as far as like having a conversation, because like, I do like to have conversations. So I'll be like, God, are you there? And he'll be like, yeah. But it's really like, at first it just feels like, this is me doing this. But I don't poop on it. I'll just let it go for a while. And then for a while, actually, then I'll be like, okay, that seems like that don't seem like my own thought. Or I'll bust out laughing because I'll hear something funny, So I do this thing where like, I don't have to wait, but I do have to like, not really filter through it, but it's like, it's just all like, bleh, it's just all up there. It could be God, it could not be God. I don't penalize myself. I don't penalize it. It's like, did God say it? Did I say it? I don't think the devil's up there like trying to, I don't know, be pretend, but sometimes it depends on what he's saying. It depends if he's like, go do this thing. It's like, it's not the devil. But like, now it's like, now it's complete chaos in there. It's complete chaos in there all day, but in a good way. But yeah, I'll just instantly like launch into a thing. And God is either talking to me really strangely or he's not at all. And it's just me. I don't know. But that's just where I am with that. It's kind of like, do you want a true, definitive thing that you can tell other people on a podcast that God speaks to you? Okay, we'll sit down with your notebook and wait patiently until something godlike comes out. But if you're like me, God's like, he doesn't really talk like mean to me or anything. But, he can be like, he doesn't, and I don't think he doesn't really start conversations. Sometimes, like, I'll be watching something or something, and it'll be like, that's you do that. That's you right there or something. And it's just like, I don't know and then I'll just talk back to it. Maybe it's me, maybe it's him. I don't know. I'm just like, I'm hoping you're understanding that I'm in the spirit of talking to you, even if I'm just fooling myself right now. And I think he understands. It's probably him the entire time. That's the other thing. It's like, if you're willing to not know and just live your life like you might be schizophrenic or you might be talking to God, then I don't have to wait. I don't wait to hear back from him. It's just a rapid fire weirdness going on all the time. So yeah, it's a lot of weird stuff in here. But the last thing I was going to say is like this. I was going to reiterate what I was saying like the other day about the German thing that I was watching and like why it was like making me emotional, like because it lasted for a while, but I was just thinking about like when you're in church and you go to a large-ish church, at some point there's going to be like some type of international moment, and there's going to be people from other countries, and they're going to get up and they're going to like be asked to pray to God in their language, and it's like it gets everybody super hyped up. And I think that's so great and cool because it's just like there's something about it's like when you see everything through the lens of God, everything just is so, everything about this thing that the world tries to do where it's like diversity, but it's like very bland and just kind of muddled, and people pretending like they want to participate but they don't. And it's like so different when it's the Spirit of God is doing it, because it's just like diversity, like you're just so hyped about it. I wouldn't even call it diversity. Like I don't even think God would call it diversity. It's like it's like this prism. It's like God, light going through God, and then it becomes all these colors, and it's just like all this different stuff. And it's like when people get up and they're just like praying in their language and you don't understand a word of it, but it's like they get to like the word that you're pretty sure is Jesus, and you're just like, oh my God. It's so like I was just thinking about what it is like in your spirit. It's just like everything about that, and just like all of these different cultures, and you got the flags and all that stuff. It's like all these different cultures, and we're all worshiping God. It's not just, oh, you have a flag and you have a country and you exist. It's like, no, like you want to say that's beautiful to pretend like you have some, like you don't need God for morality or whatever. Be like, no, everybody's culture is just valid, and I have morality too. It's like, no, dude. The only thing that makes anything beautiful is God. Everybody worshiping God. That's what's beautiful. And it's like, and powerful. It's just powerful. And it's just like, I don't know. It just becomes, like, I'm just reflecting on that feeling in those moments in church and stuff. And it's like if somebody fed you like the most nutrient filled soup that's got like onions and garlic, and then it's like fermented in honey, and then they put that in the stew, and then there's like leafy greens, and like, I don't know, I'm having a Marini moment right now, but like, and then they put like, because she's always doing like these like elaborate food analogies, and then it's like, but it's like a little bacon, like, not really, like, I don't know, not really bacon, but it's like all these nutritious things. It's like, and then I was just thinking about how people are going through their life not having these moments. It's like, dude, there are people who are not getting this spiritual superfood miracle soup in their spirit. Like, and they're walking around here just stripped of nutrients. Like, there's these little things. And I just started thinking about like just church itself. It's like these little things that the church does, or the things that we take for granted. Maybe they're not little, but like just standard staple things that are so um, good for your soul, good for your character, and it just feeds your spirit, And it's like people are not getting this. They're getting, McDonald's hamburger. If you're not, it's not. Yes, it's church, but even if your church had like a music program, and you never even went to church you didn't go to church because you love Jesus, you just went because they had a music program. It's like the way that the church naturally just cultivates all of this stuff in people, and like that's like a part of it. It's not like, yeah, it's extra, but it's like this community thing where it's like you're if you're singing in the choir, or you're on the drums or whatever, and you learn your craft there, or you learn that you're good at that public speaking, or you learn that you're good at management, or you learn that you're, or you learn that you love to help, do giving, or you love to do the, whatever, like we were having mom was having a conversation about like our old church that we used to go to, and we had like this little food drive thing that you can come to and like get free food and stuff. I don't know, just thinking about that. But there's all of these ways, and it's like totally run by people, Yes, it can get elitist or whatever, but it's like it's run by even those elitist people or people in the community. They're not making no money necessarily. There's only like a few people doing that. So I don't know. It's just effortlessly, even though it's kind of like lost its way, it's sort of effortlessly adding to people and doing this stuff. But it's just like, I don't know. I was just thinking about that, and it was, again, I was crying like a weirdo yesterday about, I don't know, the Holy Spirit and stuff. So wow, I know I had to do a long one, but I got like pretty much everything that I need to say. I don't think I need to make another video aside from a repost of the video that got taken down. So it might be good till Thanksgiving. Who knows? Hopefully we won't be here on Thanksgiving. That's like my hope and my prayer, is that we will not be here for Thanksgiving. Anyway, and yet I am also looking forward to Thanksgiving. Yeah, so anyway, that's it. And I'm glad that I used my free hour in a wise fashion. And I will see y'all later. Bye.